Hasna, for being here, and I would like also to thank Mr. Hunt for giving us, the time. It's highly appreciated. Without any further ado, I will leave the floor to Hasna now. She's going to be the moderator of this session, so she will start, and then after that, you, Mr. Hunt, can take over. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Hasna. Go ahead. Hasna, can you hear us?
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Yes, doctor, I can hear you.
You are muted, Hasna, or some problem with the connection.
Okay.
Hasna?
I can hear you.
What happened? I'm sorry, Bill, about this. Let's. I think because she's not, she's outside Muscat, so probably that's the reason why the net is not.
I am here again from my phone. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Hasna, go ahead, please.
Thank you, everybody, and sorry for this inconvenience. Good evening, everybody. Evening, our other guests. I am your host, Hasna Mohammed Dawoudi, an MBA student at the College of Economics and Political Science in Sultan Qaboos University. I am pleased to welcome you all to the CEO virtual talk. On behalf of the administratives, the academic staff, and students in the College of Economic and Political Science in Sultan Qaboos University, I am honored and pleased to welcome our dear guest, the leader, William Hunt, the CEO of the National Detergent Company, which is one of the leading manufacturing companies in the Sultanate. In this privilege, I am very delighted to have Mr. Hunt among us today to pass on his experience and to provide us with some of his extensive knowledge through his session. Learning from successful people is one of the ways to reach success. And under the effective leadership of National Detergent Company during the COVID-19 crisis, the company was able to achieve growth and profit that reached 43% by the end of 2020, and its financial data shows an increase in the company's sale by 3.6% compared to the previous year. Mr. Bill Hunt is, as he introduced himself in his LinkedIn profile, is a self-directed and a driven business executive with a comprehensive accomplishment, leading rapid sales and profit growth, with a revenue-generating partnership, operational turnaround, contract manufacturing, supply chain optimization, and cross-functional teams to achieve goals. Mr. Hunt has held executive positions globally for some of the world's most respected companies, such as General Electric and Dow Chemical. He holds an MBA in finance from Chicago Booth and a bachelor's degree of science in chemical engineering from Washington University. The title of our today's talk is, What Did They Not Teach You in Business School? What about how to manage in crisis and win? Welcome, Mr. Hunt. The platform is yours.
Thank you very much for that excellent introduction, Hasna. And with appreciations, I'll take over the chair of this presentation. So thank you very much. Also, welcome to everyone from Sultan Qaboos University. It's my pleasure to address you tonight and to give you a presentation on the experience in the managing in COVID-19. What I'd like to do straight away is go ahead and screen share the presentation. but it says host has disabled participant screen sharing. So I wonder if that could be enabled, and then we can go ahead and screen share the PowerPoint presentation to everyone. Let me try that again.
Okay, so Billy cannot present.
Yes, so now it's enabled. So thank you very much for that. And, hopefully this can be seen. Oops, we'll go back one. This can be seen by everyone. So the title of the presentation, as Hasna remarked, is What They Didn't Teach You in Business School. But we're going to attempt to share that with you tonight and share the experience. So what I'm going to say is what they didn't teach me in business school, and I learned out as I went about doing the business here in Oman. So I wanted to share the experience with you while at the same time reinforcing many of the good things that you've learned in the school so far. And what I'm going to focus on tonight is the unexpected challenge, the thing that you have to do to manage in a crisis, which is really a multifaceted crisis. So I'm going to describe the crisis and run through that, and I'll introduce the challenge. I'll tell you what results were achieved early in the presentation. So you'll have some idea of where we're going and how we got there, and what the approach was and what the outcome was is well known. So managing in a crisis is a unique and difficult thing. There is taking risks that have to happen, but as the CEO of a public company, which many of you will likely be one day, you have to mitigate the risks. So your role is to get the results while taking risk, yes, but hopefully your experience and the good team that you have with you will help you mitigate those risks. So while there's an apparent seeming that there's a risk, it really isn't a risk because you have a good and effective team working together that can make it happen. I also wanted to share some final thoughts. So as I go through, I think the critical thing here is the people management side of the business. Learning accounting, learning marketing, learning all the basic block and tackle skills, that's going to happen for you during your MBA or undergraduate education. But managing the people and managing in uncertain times, that's where the conversation is going to try and take us tonight. So I have one example to give you an idea of what this felt like in 2020 to manage through with the advent of all that occurred. This is actually the edge of the mountain, and we did a team building exercise in Jebel Akhtar as we realized we would have to really have a high functioning team in order to go forward. And I learned an excellent lesson in leadership, something that I hadn't really crystallized in my mind as I had gone forward. So if you can see, there was one woman right near the edge of the cliff and one other guy kind of crouching down, thinking about going forward. So these are members of the team. And I was the third guy, we would say, taking the picture. And what you're supposed to do is clip into this cable and then climb around this mountain and basically up and down. And it gives you a sense of achievement. You help each other as teammates and you keep in mind safety. However, when I looked at this, I'm not sure what's on your minds. But when I looked at this, I thought, I don't really want to jump off the edge of a cliff, having no idea where we're going. This seems like not a great idea to me. So ultimately, I did do that, but I'll share with you and ask you some questions about what you think happened in a leadership situation. So ultimately, I did jump over the edge of the cliff and go forward, but initially, I did not. And I was concerned that I would fall off the cliff and drop, 10, 15 kilometers down to the bottom of the mountain. So as a leader, what I'm going to ask you is, what impact do you think that had on the team who was behind me, ready to clip in and follow me down the mountain? The COVID experience was very much like this. We got hit with this. We didn't know what it was. We didn't know how to react. We didn't know how dangerous it was. We didn't understand the effect on business. So jumping off the edge of the cliff was the COVID challenge. The employees, we had to protect the employees. They had no idea what was going to happen. They weren't sure the jobs were going to be there. They saw the top line revenue drop precipitously. The supply chain couldn't get materials to make our products. National Detergents makes most famously the Bahar brand of powdered detergent. Well, when people are staying at home, being cautious, they're actually not going to school, not going to restaurants, not going to offices, and therefore not using a lot of powdered detergent. So we did see a drop in the top line revenue. The operations, we had issues where everyone has to work together in a team-based format in manufacturing, but you had to social distance was the requirement. So how do you social distance and run a manufacturing assembly line? On mobility, travel bans were everywhere. You couldn't go visit customers. You couldn't see what was happening in the retail stores. You certainly couldn't travel country to country. And then new regulatory compliance topics came up as well. On top of all this, I can share with you, and we are a public company, so the financials you'll see today are public. There's no confidential information that will be presented today, and all information presented has been disclosed on our MSM company website. So what we also had was, there was a huge upsurge of cyber attacks. So we didn't just have the regular virus, we also had a hacking attack where people implanted a virus inside our IT system, and we potentially, in a sense, went blind on our information or lost our information for a period of time as it was encrypted. So you're jumping off the edge of the cliff, you have no idea what's on the other side, and you're flying blind. So this was what 2020 started as for the National Detergent Company. When we first started the year in January, we were just doing the normal approach, which was to try and balance revenue generation, profit generation, and cash management. So what we did is said, okay, we had an actual year of 19 million Omani Rial in revenue. We had a gross profit of 5 million, a tax before profit of 734,000 Omani Rial, and we had a strong cash flow of 2.1 million Omani Rial. So that was good. However, I was the relatively new CEO, and the board was saying, please show us your leadership and make a better result for 2020. So of course I agreed to that and looked to, in the traditional sense, increase revenue, thereby increasing gross profit, thereby increasing profit before tax, and trying to balance that by keeping the cash flow up. So as we know, it takes money to grow, but if you can positively cash flow as you grow, this is even better. So I signed up to this budget with an expectation of a normal and usual year. What ended up happening, and I promised to show you the results so you can understand what's behind this presentation. The sales revenue was not there. The orders went away, and product use of our main products just was not happening. So the market dropped. Oil prices as well dropped to this time last year at almost under $10 a barrel. So it was quite a tumultuous time. In the end, we got a small growth in sales revenue. We got a good growth in gross profit, and the profit before tax went over 1 million Omani Rial for a 44% growth in profit before tax, and the cash flow zoomed up to 2.3 million. So how did we get there, and what were the learnings? Well, how we got there, well, also what that meant when we were able to do that, by generating that cash, we were able to reduce our debt to equity ratio. And as you can imagine, in the downturn that occurred, there was a liquidity crisis, as many companies were not cash flowing positive, and therefore the oil price was down, therefore cash was not prevalent, and there was a bit of a liquidity crisis in Oman. So at this time, by generating cash, we were able to reduce our interest costs, reduce our loans, and therefore also maintain our profitability. We were also able to return cash to shareholders of 766,000, repay 621,000 of long-term debt, and the net repayment was 1.3 million. So keep the focus. The focus is that businesses are meant to give a positive return to shareholders. And in our case, we're a capital intensive manufacturing business. So these shareholders put in monies up front, and the dividend is very, very important. So at NDC, we take great pride in generating the profit and paying the dividend to the shareholders on a regular basis. So how did we get that, and what was the learning? The first learning is you have to accept the world as it comes, and you can't change the world or look at it and try and make it something that it isn't. We were not going to get the top line revenue growth in a meaningful way, and you saw we missed that on our budget. We knew that early on that it just wasn't going to happen. So what alternatives do you have, and how do you manage your team when you become the CEO? Well, number one, the three ways to make profit are increase sales, reduce costs, and increase pricing. In other words, have higher margin products. So what we did is start with the pricing, and we actually created a pricing team, which we didn't have before. And we took some of our best people and allocated them to a new topic called price management. These people actually looked at what was the cost of each product, how we were set against the competition in the market, and where we had opportunities to bring more value to the consumer and be rewarded for that in a higher price. So message number one, or learning number one, or hopefully I'll say number two, because leadership was number one. But number two is you have to look at the situation, and you have to allocate your best resources to a new activity during a crisis. And that's going to be a leap of faith for those people. They're going to leave a job that they know very well and have done well in, and they're going to have to go off the edge of the cliff into something new that they have no idea and haven't done before. So the price management team we put in place did bring us excellent results. It yielded a higher average selling price. We rationalized our trade promotions, and we ended up with higher margins, as you see. And on only a small increase in sales, 3.6%, we got a 44% return on profitability. Why? Well, what you know and what you've learned in your education is how to do accounting. The most important thing is analyzing that data and knowing in whatever business you're running, what does a 1% increase in price do for your profitability? What does a 1% reduction in cost do for your profitability? And what does a 1% increase in volume do for your profitability? So our team didn't lose hope. We analyzed this, and we found that a 1% increase in price gives us a 9% increase in profit. A 1% increase in volume only gives us a 4% increase in profit, and a 1% reduction in cost gives us a 6% increase in profit. So the bigger factors were price management and cost management, because we knew we weren't going to get the volume management, which is the usual way you grow profits, is you grow the top line, that grows the bottom line. That's the simpler way. So how did we reduce costs? We looked at our entire SKU count, realizing we had 300 to 400 SKUs. And if we could simplify that, we could have longer runs in the manufacturing operations. We'd have less cash tied up in different bottle sizes, package sizes, all of these things. So as you all know, a simpler product line is a more cost-effective product line. So we rationalized out 160 products, while at the same time introducing new SKUs that were directly supportive of protecting Oman and the GCC countries where we participate against COVID-19. So through all that, we won the Most Trusted Brand Award, and we started to innovate. So even in the face of extreme crisis, which caused extreme confusion, you cannot walk away from being an innovative company to create new products that the consumers will really love. So we actually got our first patents in 2020, even we've been in business for over 30 years. We had no intellectual property portfolio developed. So we went down that path, and we actually did patent a bunch of new products. We also suffered because we couldn't use our traditional methods of advertising. So we took all of our advertising online. This is something as a younger generation than I am are very familiar with. And we had great success as this is much lower cost, a much lower cost way to reach your end consumer and pull the demand for your products through the retail customers that we have. So with that, I just thought I'd show all of you a little bit what is NDC. So we had the powdered detergent products, and we had a reasonable market share there. But remember, we're competing against Procter & Gamble, Henkel, Unilever. All of the people we compete against, the smallest one would be some 45 billion in sales and doing business in 100 countries. We do business in 6 countries. And we have 22 million Omani Real in sales. So you can see this is a David versus Goliath type situation. So we have to be innovative, fast, clever, and really bring the value that the market needs. So here you can see we actually soared up to 42% market share in disinfectants, which this is where everyone really wanted to take care of their home. Kill any chance of COVID virus in their office, in their home, whatever their facility. So these products really were very popular during this time. Dishwash liquid as well. We were participating, but with the closure of all the restaurants, that business suffered a bit. And then we went back to our formulary. And this is how looking at what you have on your team when you're a leader is critical. So I did the Zoom like we're doing here. This was a new thing. And I flattened out the organization. Instead of having the normal 6 to 8 reports, I had 12. And I included that group of 12 in a daily call to try and figure out what to do. We called it the crisis call. So we managed everything from labor issues to new protocols to protect ourselves against COVID within the company. By the way, we finished the year with 0 cases. And when things were going up dramatically among the world, so that worked. Then also one of the employees said, hey, 10 years ago, I used to make hand sanitizer here. I could bring that back. So we introduced hand sanitizer in February, March 2020, and we soared to a 42% market share by having the best product, drug registered product and registered with the Ministry of Health. And then having other attributes like non-sticky, having a positive fragrance, the things the consumer wanted. They wanted to be safe, but they wanted to be safe in a positive way. Not with sticky, smelly alcohol hands, but with something smelling like the roses. So the Farah does have a rose scent, and that was inspired during our visit up in Jebel Akbar. Next is the liquid antiseptic. Dettol was commanding the market, but we came quickly into the market with our Bahar brand and #1 brand, taking 19% market share. So these power brands are the basis of any marketing company and any brand company. So these things you just have to keep in mind. This is the business that we're talking about. I also talked about resourcing and having the strength to make changes in your organization, which may not be popular with the people who you're asking to do something new, and may not be popular with maybe your board of directors, maybe the other senior executives on the executive team think, why are you doing these things? Why are you changing just when we're in crisis? This is time to batten down and duck your head in and hold your position. But a turtle approach is not the right approach during a crisis. This is the approach. You have to open everything up. You have to increase communication dramatically. As a leader, you have to communicate not only with the level 1 below you, but maybe 2 or 3 below you on a regular basis. In my case, I elected to do that every day. So every day started out with a crisis management call, which depending on the size of the trauma we had on that day, could last for 15 minutes or could last for an hour and a half. So a lot of flexibility is required during a crisis as well. So if you see here, Farah is the Omani produced brand from the National Detergents Company. Dettol is a global brand that before we decided to enter the Oman market with our product, had 81% market share. So I'm guessing there's not one person on the call that doesn't know the Dettol brand. I'll say there's a 60% chance that people on this call don't know the Farah brand, but that's up from 0 in January. And the hope is, looking at the glass half full, is 41% of you do know about Farah hand sanitizers, liquid hand soaps, antibacterial hand soaps, bar soaps, and hopefully you're purchasing those products to support NDC and Oman. So there was a little bit of a sales pitch there. So what did we do when we had a spike and then things started to tail down and Dettol started to recapture share dramatically? So they had a supply chain interruption where they weren't able to get chemicals to make the products. Remember, one of the lessons that I learned is, during a crisis, you have to network. You don't turtle in, you network out. So I joined every social media platform, including Facebook. I got on literally with all my high school friends, even from Facebook. As it turned out, through Facebook, I found one of my high school friends, a close teammate. We were playing European football together. I was the sweeper back, he was the goalie. And he was a chemical distributor in the US who had certain products that weren't available in the Middle East due to the COVID crisis. And he had a supplier and people in his company on the ground in China who could help NDC to secure the needed materials. So while Reckitt Benckiser with Dettol had no raw material products to continue to formulate sanitizers, NDC, through this connection that I made, was able to ship us product into Oman from China, network through Washington, United States. So this is my message to you: is you must network during a crisis. You'll not find it in any textbook, but you may consider it common sense, but actually it's something you have to do deliberately, consciously, and literally tell yourself, I must be talking to everyone every day and grabbing as much information as I possibly can about what's happening in the world. And I must connect everywhere to solve every issue that I have. So we got the product, but nonetheless, our sales started to decline back again when our competitors also found the products, the raw materials. So in that case, we introduced a product marketing manager, a new position for NDC, and put a high focus on promoting the product on social media, driving through to get the registrations with the different ministries of health, and then doing consumer insights, talking to customers and saying, what do you like or not like? What's happening in your life right now? And number one, people said, we don't like sticky hands. We don't like sanitizer that makes our hands sticky. It's not nice. So we developed a non-sticky formula, and that was still efficacious, and then put a nice fragrance in it, and that you can see captured the market in a very positive way. We also looked at the overall business, and as I said, when you're in crisis, you have to admit the crisis you're in and not be delusional about it. That's just, it's a really fundamental topic. I used to, early in my career, work for a guy by the name of Dr. Jack Welch at GE, and he would always say, look, no one will teach you this in school, but you must look at the world as it is versus as you wish it was or as it used to be. You have to take a realistic look. If you do that, and you're smart and educated and have high energy, you will win every time. So in this case, our main business, which you can see metric ton wise and value wise in lines 1 and 2, was fabric care, which is powdered laundry detergent. That was dropping a lot. Now you remember a 1% drop in volume gives you a 6% drop in profitability. So if you multiply the tonnage drop of 13 times 6, then you have a 78% drop in profitability. If you look at the MSM numbers of year-on-year performance, many companies had a drop in profitability of 78% on falling volume. Some companies, of course, even went negative because that falling volume can also affect price, makes competitors more aggressive on price, so you also get a price drop, and that can take you into negative territory. So knowing that, what we did is introduced a new category, and we changed our company registration to include medical products, and we introduced the health and hygiene products. You can see that those went up 249% in value and 96% in tonnage, offsetting the losses that we had in our traditional products. We also promoted home care with new products. So you see the Bahar disinfectant there is the second bottle from the top on the left-hand side of the page, the brown liquid. That was a very good introduction and people wanted the disinfectants. The next product I hope you've seen around Oman is what we call a pocket sanitizer. That is a 20 milliliter sanitizer that you can put in your pocket. And we patented this as a new product, which really has done very well. So that innovation also helped our numbers, and it was patented. So it was a protected product, and we could promote it and market it aggressively. Then we had personal care, which the tonnage dropped, but we introduced higher value products, shampoos and hand soaps that were antibacterial hand soaps. So we introduced products that the customer was demanding and not otherwise getting. So that helped us quite a bit, and we were able to ask a reasonable price for that. So our average selling price or realization went up. All in all, while our tonnage was down, and therefore 6%, and therefore we should have had anywhere from 20 to 25% reduction in profitability, by intervening, motivating the team, and pulling out the best from each person, we were able to get a 3% growth in value sales and a 44% growth in profitability. So that's the story. That's it. So I've been watching the clock, and I think I've come up against my initial time and maybe even gone a few minutes over. So my apology for that, the initial time allocation. So I wanted to leave you with one thought from a very famous person, Winston Churchill, and what he had said at one time, and of course he was famous for fighting and winning wars, was never let a good crisis go to waste. So my lesson, one of my final messages today is you can see that NDC was in a very big crisis situation. I think in a normal time frame, I never would have been able as CEO, even if I had the idea, to terminate hundreds of products from our portfolio to simplify it and reduce the cost and streamline the operations. I don't think that would have happened. I don't think I would have been able to get a medical license in a very short period of time. And for sure, it takes a good period of time, almost a year, to develop a new product and to do it properly, well, and under high discipline. In this case, we trusted our team, we trusted each other, we jumped off the edge of the cliff, and we reduced 168 products and introduced 38 new ones. And that really cemented a good year for NDC. I would have to say fabulous year for NDC as one of the top performing industrial companies in Oman. I want to thank you for your time. I think we have the opportunity, and I certainly would enjoy any questions that you might have. And I do my best to share my learnings with you. Just remember back to the initial slide, and I'd love to have someone give me their view of what happened when I backed out of going down the cliff initially to make the mountain climb. So with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Hasna as the moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Behant, for this interesting presentation and this informations you have provided for all the students and all the guests of our CEO talk today. And we are opening the floor, the question from our participants. So I have a question here from Dawood Al-Fahdi. What do you feel is the strength in the company now?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit. Can you repeat the question, please, Hasna?
Yes, of course. Dawood Al-Fahdi is asking, what do you feel is the biggest strength in your company right now?
So I think the biggest strength in the company right now is the team that's been built at throughout the company. So while we have great strength in our new products, we have new patents, we have all these things, the real strength of the company lies in the team that's been built here and their ability to work together to really attack any issue and to put aside any roughness that might have been there. Remember, I'm a relatively new CEO. When you have a new leader, you go through a process of assimilation, sometimes called storming. You have sort of that honeymoon period, then you have a storming period, then you have a norming period, then you have a performing period. So you have to go through that storming, norming to get to performing. We didn't have that luxury in 2020. We had to go right from hello to performing. And so that was accomplished. And that I think is the greatest strength of the company. I think we can meet any challenge that comes to us when that happens, when we have that strength between us.
Actually, yes, I confirm what you said. The team is the main resource of each company. So if you build a great team, you can build a great company. So congratulations for your team. I have another question. What is the gap that prevents the Omani industry sector from converting to the global market? Knowing that there are some limited expansion in this regard. So so far, we are not reaching our goals regarding to the penetrating to the global market. So what is the reason from your point of view?
Okay, that is a really fantastic question. And so through my career, I've worked on many continents, and I've worked with some of the most respected companies in the world. One of my assignments was to benchmark other companies when I worked for Jack Welch at GE. And the company I was to benchmark was a small company in Arkansas, which is a place, if you're from the US, you don't really need to go there. There's nothing that would draw you to this place. And it's a small town called Bentonville, Arkansas. And I don't know that it had more than 15 or 20,000 people in it before Sam Walton started his business there. And it became one of the largest companies in the world. So I don't think there's anything preventing Oman from establishing being headquartered here and establishing a global business that can parallel American businesses, for example, in my market right now, like Procter & Gamble or the German company Henkel, or Unilever, the Anglo-Dutch company. So we definitely can do it, but we are developing. So for example, I went to submit the patents and on our new products to find that the Omani Patent Office is no longer being supported right now. So we don't have a way to patent something in our own country. And I said, heck no, we're Omani, we need it here. So we have to push and develop systems, but we're still in the phases of developing our legal system. We're still in the phases of developing our infrastructure as it relates to intellectual property protection and these types of things. So can we do it? We can. Are we early stage? We are. That's one of the reasons why I really enjoy the opportunity to come and work and bring some value to Oman. Because Oman is likely to be, or could be, is positioned to be one of the fastest growing economies in the world, albeit at a very small base. But don't ever think, because we're only 4 million people strong, that we can't become one of the biggest investors in the world. The Walmart story proves that you can go from a very small place to having a very commanding position. And you might ask, well, did Walmart move their headquarters from that small town? And the answer is no. They stayed in that small town, and they still remain there at their global headquarters today. So thank you for the question.
Great, thank you for this answer. It clarifies a lot of things about the global market also. So there's a question from Mazak. The idea of network out rather than turtle in. considering the fact that the company is giving MNC and BG to your for their money in the local market. Are you looking at the exporting your product in economies?
Yeah, so definitely we have our highest market share in Oman itself, as we've been long running, and we're the only local producer. So the only local producer of bar soaps, the only local producer of powdered detergents and these types of things. So we have a very favored position here, and this is our strength initially. But we are branching out. All of the hires that I've made in the past, say, 3-4 weeks have all been outside of the country, and where we're actually branching out. So we've established offices recently in Kuwait, in Qatar, in Bahrain, in Saudi Arabia, multiple offices, multiple locations, in the UAE, and we've begun direct distribution of our product even in UAE. It's bordering on our country, so we can drive the truck across and we can deliver directly to the customers, even without a distributor. So these are the things we're doing. Now, with the drop in top line revenue as well, we also have recently registered all of our products and have been certified to export to Egypt and Yemen. What I don't really want to do is ship one box to every country. What I want to do is grow the market share and have a meaningful market share in each country. And if you've ever played the game of risk, you don't want to spread yourself too thin. If you spread yourself too thin, you lose. So you have to keep the concentration and the critical mass that you can support your products, you can support your employees, you can support your customers, and you can really understand your markets. So I think we will grow. Will NDC be a global powerhouse in the billion-dollar category during my career? Maybe not, but I hope one of you will take up that mantle and carry that forward over your career and take NDC into being a multinational MNC with over $1 billion in revenue. So that's my prayer.
Thank you. Yes, and also our Omani graduates can take the lead in the future for providing our global economies to the world, and give the quality of the quality of the products Omani industry. So there is also a question from Ali Ashidani. Is there a plan for certification?
Say it again, please. You were breaking up a little bit again.
Could you hear me, Doctor? Can you hear me now?
Can you ask again, please? Yes, I can hear you now.
I think, Bill, if you just look at the chat box, I mean, Hasna is reading from the chat box. So Ali Shidani is asking a question. Is there a plan for diversification? So
sorry, because...
Go ahead, Hasna.
Yes, so diversification is an interesting topic. Remember, we're not a huge company. So if you go too many directions all at the one time, that can be difficult. So the big question, strategic question for NDC is, do we do more in consumer products and grow that business regionally, or do we enter new product categories within Oman? So do we do 7 different things in Oman, or do we do one thing globally? And that's really the question. Due to the strong support of the government for in-country value, we did start an oil and gas division, and the same technology that's used to separate dirt from your clothes is also used to separate oil from water. And this can be used to reduce the cost of pumping oil in a very, very material way. So those emulsifiers separate things, and that separation technology is something well known to NDC. So we have diversified into the oil and gas area, but it's only with our exact same technology. So we found a great fit between a need in Oman and one of the biggest businesses in Oman, the oil and gas industry, and our technology, which fits hand in glove with what's trying to be accomplished here locally, reducing costs, increasing margins, and creating better profitability and competitiveness for the oil industry in Oman. I'm not a proponent of us going into making other consumer products. That's something, cups, plates, glasses, cell phones. I don't believe in diversification that isn't built on your core competencies. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, Mr. Thank you very much. I admire your concentration about how to focus on one strong type products and to take it further. It is better than you diversify yourself than lost in the between. So this strategy is a very good strategy for building on and growth. There is also a question from Ghalia Al-Habsi. She asks about about the logistics. Since Oman is a large country, is there an idea of opening another factory to reduce the logistic cost? Omani population support this?
Again, Galia, this is an excellent question, and it's intuitively an appealing question. However, when you look at the profitability and financial strength of the company, what you quickly realize is you have both variable costs above your gross margin line and you have fixed costs below your gross margin line. The more facilities you have, the more administrative or fixed costs below the line, which isn't adding value to the product you have. So if you have 5 plants, you need 5 quality managers, you need 5 security guards, you need 5 licenses to do business on that property, you need 5 rental buildings, you need 5 of everything if that's what you're looking to do. So I've modeled this out, and what I found is that actually if you have one mega site, you have the lowest overheads and therefore you're the most productive. So you hear people talking about economies of scale. So economies of scale apply to manufacturing. We currently have 5 to 6 locations in Oman itself, and it's my goal to reduce that to one manufacturing site. So I'm actually looking to go the other direction. We want to ship and sell to many different locations. We may have many sales offices. We may have many warehouses to have the product close to the consumer. But as far as manufacturing, you want to do that on one mega site where you can control everything from water and air emissions to good environmental practices to being a responsible citizen. You want to do that all under one site, under one really good set of eyes. So that's the idea, is fewer manufacturing sites, more distribution and sales offices.
Okay, Doctor. Mr. Bell, there is a question also here.
Yes.
How is the pandemic reshaped your supply chain?
Yes, so what's happened on the supply chain has been traumatic. So before, what we did is really researched and focused on one key supplier. And then we said, okay, you're our supplier, we're gonna buy sodium sulfate from you. Okay, then we just had a long-term and we were doing business with them forever. Now, what happens when that country gets shut down and can't ship, which is what happened to India? So we were using India for some of our supplies and they just couldn't ship. They literally were not allowed to get into a truck and drive the product to the port. And then they weren't allowed to work on the port and put it on the ship and bring it here. So what happened was the coronavirus started in China, then moved around. So what we did was we tracked where it was moving and then saw where it was about to explode up and then sourced away from that. So we tripled the number of companies that we can source from as qualified suppliers. And when one company would get shut down, we were very agile and we put orders in on another company. So we just really kept close track of what was happening in every country. And we literally we have people from so many places working at NDC. We're really a very global oriented group in our knowledge. So people just knew, okay, I know what's happening in the US, so I would share that. This guy's from Italy, he knew what was happening there. We of course know what's happening in Oman. These guys are from India, different parts of India, so they shared that. So what we did was we increased our supplier base and increased our flexibility. And then I also increased our inventory. So that's what we had to do. And it was extremely traumatic, and it was like being an acrobat. It was just something new every day, and we had to manage it by meeting every single day of the year in order to bring it through.
I think it's the case in most companies also around the world. The supply chain is damaged very hard because of this pandemic. So everybody reshaped their business and their business chain also. So maybe this is a huge lesson for the companies to keep rebuilding their supply chain and inventing also the solution. I have also from Ali Shidani. I hope you hear me well.
Yes, I heard you well. So it's really referencing the rich history and relation between East Africa and Oman. Can you hear me? So I think the question here relates to the rich history between East Africa and Oman. And for centuries, there's cultural existence that tells the story, something we can capitalize to export Omani products into that area. What will prevent us from doing so? Well, what prevents us from doing so is when countries put high barriers to trade called taxes and duties on incoming products. So for example, East Africa, like countries there include countries like Kenya, would be one of the larger economies in East Africa. They have a 30 to 35% import duty on the products which we would supply there. So that just wipes out any chance of competing in the market. Now we can go there with our patented, protected and unique products, but we can't go there with commodity products because they've barred that trade in favor of local producers. So where they have a local powder detergent producer, we can't possibly compete financially there unless we have an innovative, patented, unique technology. So it hasn't been a focus for us. On the other side, there was a question of whether we produce LAPSA, otherwise known as linear alkyl benzene sulfonic acid. So I think we have a chemist in your group out there. For Mohammed, we do produce LAPSA. We import linear alkyl benzene and produce LAPSA. We do ship it around the world, and we do produce more than we consume internally. So that is one business we've developed globally. And since there is, I have experience in the US market, and since there is a free trade agreement with the US where they don't put any duty or tax on any product made in Oman, or vice versa, then we can ship freely there and we can definitely compete. So we do compete, we do ship there, and we have a growing and thriving business in the United States and Canada. But with the trade barriers in East Africa, we can't get in. So we need a trade agreement with Kenya, between Kenya and Oman. That would be a super positive thing for Omani manufacturers.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. There's a question also from Luqman Shukaili asking what are NDC's effort in localizing supply chain?
Well, from a supply chain standpoint, we only use local Omani transporters, and we try and use SMEs. So I think we probably have the greatest percentage of SMEs in transporting our products within Oman and in and around Oman, and even when we transport to cross-border internationally to UAE, to Saudi Arabia, or up in Kuwait through Saudi Arabia. So that is one of the things that we do predominantly, is we only use Omani SMEs for our logistics operations. There are major companies that are global companies like DHL. Their huge German logistics company is here in Oman, and then the large multinationals use them. We do not. We focus on SMEs, and we focus on only Omani owned and operated logistics providers.
Okay, that's great, and hope them and you are the best in this cooperation. There's a question also from Galia Al-Habsi. She's asking about how VAT will affect your business And at which point, in terms of taxes, it will be visible to shift production overseas?
Well, let's see. I think that VAT is a cost to business, and the initial cost, unlike the VAT in the United Arab Emirates, a manufacturer would import a product, be quote unquote charged a VAT, but that VAT would be figurative, not cash. So then when you sold your product, you collected VAT from your customer and you put it against the credit and you balance it up. So it's a non-cash event for the manufacturer. In fact, you're just passing the product through. And that's a very good process if you have to have a tax and if the government needs money. This is the way to do it. This is also the same in the US for value-added tax, also in the US called sales tax. The people in the chain don't have a cash outlay in order to run the system. In Oman, what we've started is we've said, okay, if I buy something, I have to pay 5% VAT to the government. And then it takes me 30, 60, 90 days to make and sell the product. And then my customer maybe gets 30, 40 days, 5 to 45, maybe 60 days credit. And then I finally get paid for it. So my cash cycle is I have to put 5% of everything. So, 5% of, let's say my cost of materials is 60%. I have 20 million in revenue. Then I have 60% in materials. I'm buying $12 million a year in materials. And then times 5%, I've got to come up with 600,000 Omani Riyal cash just to fund the system. But ultimately I never have to pay that, but I have to put the cash out. And then if it's, a certain number of months getting tied up, could it be even more? So I think this will hurt manufacturing companies who we're in a highly liquid position with low debt to equity. So I think NDC can handle it. But certainly any startup manufacturing company would be severely hurt. And the faster you grow, the more this impacts you. When you're exporting, VAT doesn't come into the picture. So as far as it relates to export, you don't have the issue. But you still have the cash flow issue because when you buy it, you don't know if you buy a raw material to make a product. You don't know if you're going to sell it locally or you don't know if you're going to export it. So you only pick that up well down the track when that actually occurs. In the meantime, you have to pay all the cash into the VAT system. So I hope that changes, but otherwise that will significantly hurt local manufacturing.
Yes, I agree with you. And I think people need to find a recovery way because this is a new era for so all the industries need to be to direction. I have another question for you, Mr. Hunt. How can small and medium enterprises benefit from the lesson imposed by the pandemic, move from transforming their businesses and protecting them in the future from such a crisis? If just some advice for SMEs in Oman.
To be honest, I think there isn't a solution to protecting your business from the pandemic except strong and decisive and confident leadership. So I will give the answer to a question I asked Hasna. Well, I'll ask you since you're on the microphone. What do you think happened when we did our mountain climbing team building? And as the CEO, instead of going over the mountain's edge, because I thought it was too dangerous, I didn't think it was a good idea. What do you think happened to the rest of the team when I unclipped and stepped back? What do you think? How do you think the team reacted?
Everybody will step back also. So it is about the leadership at the end. If you just have that guts to take on and climb the mountain, I think they will follow you.
So you are exactly correct. And you should be giving me advice in the future now. So I stepped back and the entire senior management team unclipped and stepped back also. And so that hesitation as a leader caused my team to fail at achieving the goal because I didn't show the confidence that this was the right thing to do and it was the right way to go, and I hesitated. I hesitated and I showed fear. I showed a bit of fear. So as a small entrepreneurial operator and head of an SME, you have to not show fear. You have to be a strong leader. In the face of crisis and adversity, you have to have a calm mind. You have to look for practical solutions, and you have to keep your team together, confident in you as the leader, and ready to follow you. After I did clip in, then many people followed. But because I hesitated, that was a big lesson in leadership. That was a big mistake, and it made a big difference in the outcomes. So what you can do as a small business is be that strong leader, be confident, and be willing to go over the side of the cliff, not knowing what's on the other side, and hope, confidence, and the will of Allah will take you to a good place. So you must do it. You must be confident. You must take the leap of faith, and you must do it with showing outward confidence in the decisions that you're making. And it's not that you'll always, not that you'll always make the right decisions, but
it is about the leadership taking decision. This is all about the leadership. Yes, it is all about taking decision by the leader. Okay, there is another question also. I'm interested by our participant today. Here is a question. Good evening, sir. Your product, Bahar, is very strong soap. Even some competitive companies try to do like it, but they couldn't. With this strong product, I think marketing should be as the same level as it is quality, especially in the package design and logo. Are you calling to ruin it?
That is extremely insightful, and I would say we have a very good marketing consumer products leader in the development at Sultan Qaboos University, because that's exactly correct. In fact, we weren't doing that as much as we could, and we had let the brand, even we were doing the brand in different colors and not being uniform and consistent. So along with the pricing team, a marketing team was formed at NDC, and they're charged with improving the marketing brand, the packaging, improving the marketing presence of the product, and getting the word out. So it is true that Bahar is probably the best. For example, powdered laundry detergent, it's probably the best product. For the price, it's absolutely the best product. I had in my previous careers, previous activities, I manufactured 26 brands that are marketed and sold in the GCC. So you can imagine, for the confidentiality contracts, I can't disclose which ones, but there are 26. So you can pretty much say all of them. And Bahar has undoubtedly the top formula. So with that in case, I think that this idea of putting more effort and cost on marketing is really, really positive. And I think what you saw on my first slide tonight, if you happen to, I didn't call it out, but it said on there, we got these great results financially, but the gross margin increased more than the net margin percentage-wise. Why? Because we're spending more money on marketing. We're spending more money on packaging. And that was my message to my board of directors. Don't be upset that I'm spending more money on marketing, because we have to do this to have our packaging and our presentation to the customer and communication to the customer be as good as the product that we're actually selling. The product doesn't actually sell itself the first time. The second time, maybe, but the first time you have to entice the customer, you have to attract the customer, and then you have to hold the customer. So great question. That's exactly what we're doing. And thank you for that question.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. I have two more questions left. Ali Shidani is asking, what is the major changes in your input in your marketing strategy going forward post the pandemic? Also, I think Badriya also asking about the effect of the company's sense of social responsibility, effect of COVID-19 pandemic on social responsibility initiatives. So I think we will close with these two questions. Thank you very much, every participant. I will leave Mr. Hunt to answer these questions.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Hasna, for your great and capable running of this meeting today. It's greatly appreciated. On the changes to the marketing strategy going post-pandemic, as we said in the last slide, never let a good crisis go to waste. So we use that to accelerate what we would have done anyway. It just would have taken a lot longer and it would have been more difficult. We were more receptive to it because we were in crisis mode, and in a crisis, people get going, they get either scared and do the turtle, or they say, the heck with it, we're gonna figure our way through this thing, and we're gonna use this to our advantage, and we're gonna win. And that's what NDC did. So what I'm saying post-pandemic, it's gonna be more of the same. Understand customer needs, reduce costs, increase quality, and increase reach geographically. Manage your costs, manage your pricing, and then, you know, love your customers. That's the key. Finally, I would look for more innovation. We should have less time dealing with crises. Therefore, we should have more opportunity to innovate. So I'd like to see more patents being issued. I'd like to see more new products coming to the market. And I'd like to continue that trend. As far as the social responsibility, we certainly, of course, donated a lot of hand sanitizer and other COVID-related products. We do earmark through the board of directors specifically, they earmark certain amounts of monies that they give to the operations, which is my team, that we can actually make donations. We can donations of products is usually how we do it, since our products are needed. We support a whole list of organizations in Oman, particularly those we consider to be underprivileged people, whether financially or handicapped in some way. We try to support that. And then additionally, we have a school program where we teach school-age children. These are products. This is good hygiene. This is how you know, the importance of washing your clothes, the importance of a clean environment. So the importance of health and hygiene. So that's who we are. I really love that question, and I want to throw on top of it, even though it wasn't asked, we also take great pride in being an environmentally conscious company. Before the pandemic hit, we did the Bitter for Litter program, where we did beach cleaning. So maybe you guys know Hoppy the Frog, and he's wearing his Bahar t-shirt. So we focused on that, but we also focus on using biodegradable products in our detergents. We focus on no air emissions, no liquid emissions, basically protecting the planet, and doing that through smart and good and effective use of chemistry and chemical processes. So if you'll notice, any Bahar product doesn't have blue dye in it. If you look at some competitive products, they're actually, the whole bag of powder will be dyed blue. So we don't use those chemical dyes because eventually those get back to the earth. So we don't take them out of the earth, we don't put them in the product, and we don't use our customers to put them back into the earth, just to make the washing experience appear prettier, because water with a little blue tint in it looks cleaner than water without. We don't do that. We try to do the purest formulas and think of the environment and our social responsibility every day through the work that we do. So with that, I really want to wish all of you a very successful future. You are the leaders of this country. You are the leaders of industry, and you are who we will rely on for the future growth, prosperity, and leadership in this country of Oman. So I congratulate you all for attending the university, for doing it diligently, and just remember, anything you learn is with you for life. So an investment in learning will pay you dividends for the rest of your life. So I congratulate you all for your choice, and I hope I've added some value to the evening tonight. Thank you very much.